absolutely amazing. Hello and welcome to the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. We're back in action once again for the top 16 superstars for round 10. My name's Tom Brooks, alongside me, Jimmy Broadbent, back once again in action. Jimmy, how you doing, mate? Your hair's gotten even longer and even more out of control since the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it's getting worse. I think it's starting to impact my personality now, which is a bad thing. But luckily, we have some Nations Cup racing to step behind of that, so looking forward to it.
Yep, absolutely. 2 races to come here for you today in the top 16 superstars. As Jimmy said, we've got Nations Cup action to come for you from the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Group 1 machinery. And then we have the Manufacturer Series racing, which will be taking place at the Autodromo de Interlagos in Group 3 cars. That's set to be a very tantalising prospect indeed for our top 16 drivers within the EMEA region. Very excited to see how they will be getting on over the course of this one. Jimmy, let's go straight into Spa-Francorchamps, shall we? And take a look at that circuit, because it's a track really that I don't think needs much of an introduction.
Yeah, Spa, I think, probably one of the most famous racetracks in the world. Been around for many, many years in many forms of racing, but of course in its current state, still used by F1, just over 7 kilometres long, one of the longest circuits you'll find in the GP calendar and in GT Sport 2, split into 3 sectors, and there you go, just a whole host of world famous names. Eau Rouge, Radion, Pouhon, Rivage, Bolchemont there as well. A circuit really it's hard to set up a car for. You've got the first and third sector very fast, mid sector very, very cornery, very downforcey, so a definite challenge for our drivers.
Cornery and downforcey, 2 words I didn't expect you to be using during that track guide there, Jimmy. But what's your favourite corner on the track, if you had to pick just one?
I'd say Pouhon, actually. You know, I'm gonna forgo the classic Eau Rouge Radion combo and go for Pouhon, just because it's a corner which is 100% commitment, like a lot of the good corners actually at Spa. But it's when you get it right, it's really cool. When you get it wrong, you're kind of off into the undergrowth. So there's that element to it. I think I like that one the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's jump straight into our Nations Cup hot lap, shall we? And take a look at this circuit, because you're going to guide us through one of the fastest laps I think we saw in the top 16 Superstars qualifying session.
So we're on board then with the Italian driver Valerio Gallo, showing us round the Spa-Francorchamps circuit as fast as he possibly can. On board in the Audi R18 Group 1 car, a car I have vast experience with, so it's great to see it here in the Nations Cup. Coming out of the source now, that's where you deploy all the hybrid. You can see the hybrid there being used on the dasher, that blue bar decreasing as we launch down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion, completely flat through here. Easy peasy, looks very scary on board as well. And now we let the diesel engine fly as we come up the Kemmel Straight. Quite steep uphill this in real life as well, and in game. We don't notice it on board here. Look to the left-hand side of the circuit for your braking point. We're braking just at the end of the curb there, and using the curbs on both sides of Les Combes to get the widest line possible. Now on the exit, use a little bit of the exit here. Don't go too wide though, because it gets very slippy if you go a bit too far off. Now Rivage, understeer City here if you carry too much speed into this corner. Luckily Gallo tucks it in nice and neatly. Now come into X corner, getting the throttle nice and early here. Again, just try and drive the car out to the curb on the exit. Now for Pouhon, really fun, fast one this one. We're going to take it in 4th gear, down we go. Touching curbs on both sides there, very nice and neat and tidy from Gallo. Now we're coming up to the Fagnes chicane, usually 3rd gear in these cars. Let's see if he uses it. He does 3rd gear through here, even takes 2nd there to help rotate the car a little bit. And now again, watch out for the exit curb. They're very, very slippy there if you're not careful. Now we come into Stavelot 1 and Stavelot 2. Stavelot 2, very, very important for lap time, because if you make a mistake there, you carry that mistake all the way up towards Blanchimont. Now, not much of a straight this, but you have to try and take the straightest line possible up towards Blanchimont. Again, we'll go into 6th gear through here. Will there be a lift from Valerio Gallo? No, not a chance we go through there. 190 miles an hour now coming up to the bus stop. Hard on the anchors. Throw the car to the inside. Be very careful through here. Very easy to have understeer. Focus on the exit, and that is about as good a lap as you're going to see at Spa by Valerio Gallo in the Audi R18. Fantastic.
On pole position, Valerio Gallo, the Italian driver, lines up in the Audi R18. Alongside him, the Frenchman, Baptiste Beauvoir. Second row of the grid, headed by Coque Lopez, the Spaniard. What can he do from the start of that row? Marcus Connaughton lines up P4. Fifth position, Giorgio Mangano, the Italian. We know how fast he can be. Can he produce a good result from that place on the grid? Alongside him, Thomas Cabelia will be doing his best to try and stop that charge. Seventh place, Rick Kevelam, the Dutchman. And then 8th place, Adam Tapai. Let's hear them from Giorgio Mangano.
Before the race, I start my training on the simulator, and that doesn't go over the 2 hours. And on race day, I try to relax and concentrate as much as possible to get the best performance on the race. I think LMP1 cars are very good for this track because it has slow but also fast corners. So to get a perfect lap, you have to be very precise. Before the race, I feel a bit of tension, but it immediately goes away when the race starts because you are very concentrated on driving and do the best.
Good to hear there from Giorgio Mangano. Here we are then, Jimmy. We get our first look at the tyre strategies for these drivers. Strategy's been really interesting actually in the top 16 Superstars today. What do you think about this going into this race?
Well, obviously, Mr. Gallo is looking to get away as quick as he can on that softer compound of tyre. We've heard a couple of different stories on what's going to work in terms of tyre strategy around here, but it always seems to be something that's revealed to us as time goes on with these. And they bring a new strategy to each different race, these Nations Cup guys. So I'm interested to see what will happen here. Gallo, of course, had a couple of good results in the last Nations Cup races, so hopefully we are looking to try and repeat that here at Spa. Next soft runner, by the way, is Connaughton, down in 4th position. He needs to get past Lopez and Beauvoir. He wants to challenge Gallo for the lead.
Yeah, hot pick for this race I think is going to have to be Baptiste Beauvoir, who lines up in 2nd position. We know how quick and aggressive he can be. Can he translate that into a good result here in Group 1 machinery? We're about to find out then. Round 10 of the top 16 Superstars for the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships is about to get underway. Valerio Gallo will lead the field over the line as we head down towards La Source for the first time then. Beauvoir and Coque Lopez in 2nd and 3rd position respectively. Hard on the brakes we go into that hairpin. Shouldn't see any moves being made thanks to the rolling start here, but it's the run up through Eau Rouge and Radion onto the Camel Straights where I reckon things could get quite interesting here on lap 1.
And of course, a lot of these guys opting for the same car as well, so that hybrid boost you see from this Audi R18 isn't quite being deployed in the same way you see it against perhaps other vehicles. Anyway, going down the straight now, of course, these Group 1 machines, lots of downforce. So if you're following, you're going to get a big draft down there as Beauvoir gets a bit closer, breaking into Lake Com now. Again, look at the cornering speed through here. I say that, Gallo goes a little bit wide there, and that allows Baptiste Beauvoir to get alongside. He's on the outside there of Lake Com, and he gets it done before going down to reverse. So a mistake early on for our pole sitter allows Beauvoir on the medium compound tyre to get through. That's a disaster there for Gallo.
Not good at all for the Italian driver, and we have seen him make a few little mistakes under pressure. Let's see whether he can turn that around. Here is Coque Lopez then in 3rd position. He's got Marcus Connaughton, the soft shod runner, behind. What we should expect, by the way, is drivers who are on the hard tyre, that means Jones, Tapai and Bussinelli, to get off of those tyres, as well as Cabelia in 6th place for that matter, to get off of those tyres as soon as they possibly can. So they'll probably come in at the end of lap 1 here, get off of those, get onto some mediums or some softs and run those for a longer stint in the middle. There's no minimum tyre time for these drivers, just the 1 lap they have to run them for, and of course, given that they're that much slower, they'll want to run them for as least time as possible on this track.
Now, of course, biffing around here being Spa, it's very much a tale of two halves, really. You have the first and last sector, which are all about top speed and low downforce drag, and then you have the middle sector, which is the complete opposite. Having those wing on there is the way to go. So you have to try and balance the car through there, of course, and what that means is following someone from the first sector is fantastic, but then as soon as you get to them in the middle sector, you're going to be suffering big time from that dirty air, especially from these cars here. As you predicted, Thomas Cabelia there into the pits from the hard compound. He's going on to the medium. Interestingly, a couple of the medium runners are looking to get off that tyre as soon as possible as well.
Yeah, they're going from the softs to the mediums, respectively, and Zarka going from the mediums to the hard. Here comes Gallo through Eau Rouge and Radion, up the inside, and into the lead away, mugs Baptiste Beauvoir, and here comes Coque Lopez, who's got a great run through that corner as well, because Beauvoir, of course, was compromised. He pulls ahead of the Frenchman on the Kemmel straight. That was brave, and that has really cost Beauvoir quite dear on this second lap here. What do you think of that, Jimmy?
It's a bit of drafting there, I think. Not too quick coming out of the source, and that really hurt him out of there. Of course, these guys in these LMP1 cars, these Group 1 cars, they have that four-wheel drive hybrid system. It's rear-wheel drive usually, but when you use a hybrid, it becomes four-wheel drive. So you can get a great launch out of the slower speed corner speed. If you make a mistake, it's compounded. You really suffer from it. I think Beauvoir did that coming out of the source, and that allowed Gallo to get back by, who's now just rocketing away on that soft compound tyre. 1.2 seconds. Coque Lopez trying to keep moving, but unable to, of course, at this stage of the race. This is what Gallo wanted to do on the first lap. He's kind of lost a lap now, that soft tyre running. So he's really going to make up for it at this point. And Collinan, if he wants to try and stay with him on that same strategy, needs to get through as well.
Well, starting with a soft tyre, as you said, he'd have wanted to break that gap as soon as he possibly could. Now, as you said, he is falling the lap behind effectively with building that gap out to Coque Lopez. How is that going to affect his mindset, do you think? What is he going to be thinking now?
Probably some swear words in Italian, I imagine, if I were him right now. But I think he's just going to be now just trying to put the blinkers on, bit between his teeth, and just go out there and go as quick as he can, as Collinan comes very close there to the back of the R18 of Baptiste Beauvoir. I think ran into Coque Lopez on the exit. Just a little bump there, that would have stopped his momentum. But you can see that what the draft does here, it's almost impossible to get away from someone. Gap at the front now is 2 seconds. The second, third, fourth and fifth there in your picture, separated by not very much at all. Now, this is where you don't want to be Coque Lopez, because you're the one giving the draft to the two cars behind. Let's see how that pans out. Come over the top of Eau Rouge. What a great camera angle this is there through Radion. And now up the Kemmel straight. A lot steeper than you think it is here, but you wouldn't notice it from the way these cars accelerate.
Down the Kemmel straight we go, then Lopez goes to the inside, Beauvoir to the outside. Is he going to go later on the brakes into Les Combes? He does. Can he hold it all the way around the outside through there? That's brave. It might cost him as well here, because Lopez is on the outside here. Here comes Collinan as well on the outside of Lopez. So Beauvoir holds on. Collinan gets shuffled out wide through turn 7 on the anchors into turn 8. Collinan gets through ahead of the Spaniard into third position, but that could have been very costly indeed there. So they're playing very brave here in these opening few laps, but that's pretty crucial for Collinan. Again, he's on the soft, quicker compound of tyre. He needs to make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah, my friends and I used to joke about this car being called the Tractor, and it really showed there going off-road and they're getting that overtake done on Coque Lopez just about. But he needs to get past Beauvoir now. The thing is, you might be wondering, well, why isn't he just cutting through these guys? Because Gallo is just streaking off now. 3.7 seconds to Beauvoir, if you're wondering, in second place there. Dirty Air, it's really playing havoc with this thing. It just takes the grip away from the front of the car. In the background, Mangano getting a little bit sideways. But again, conversely, we say a lot with these higher downforce machines, this is where you want to be behind someone right here when you have the draft. What's that speedometer there in the bottom right hand corner of your screen? 180 mile an hour coming up one of the fastest corners in the circuit. Blanchimont corner, throw it in, flat through there completely. Nearly 200 mile an hour before braking to the bus stop. How brave does Mangano feel? Very brave. Fast one up the inside. Now they're side by side coming through there. Oh no, Mangano peeled off into the pit lane. So actually that was quite clever by Mangano. Didn't slow himself up at all. Just got into the pit.
Nicely
done. Good.
Nicely done there for him. Onto the soft compound of tyre there for Giorgio Mangano. Wonder if the fuel multiplier is going to come into play here as well. The advantage of them being caught in the slipstream is they do have a little bit of time to fuel save here. So I wonder how much of an effect that's going to have in the latter stages of this race when fuel usage gets a bit crucial. Cowley comes into the pit lane as well as Bussinelli in 15th and 16th position respectively. Now here comes Collinan, he's got a good run coming on to the Kemmel straight, closes up onto the back of Baptiste Beauvoir, a little bit too far away at the moment to launch a challenge, but still is looking pretty close behind and in good shape here. It's not worked out entirely how he'll have wanted. What he'd have ideally wanted to have done is dispatched of these guys on the opening lap and tried to catch up to Valerio Gallo. Hasn't worked out like that now, so he's a little bit on the back foot. May have to rethink his strategy as a result of that. We're expecting 3 to 4 stops for these drivers as we looked at before the start of this race, so let's see how it all works out. Just a reminder, they must use each compound of tyre at least once in this race. So for the drivers who start on the hard tyre, they've got that slow compound out of the way. Everybody else who hasn't run that has got to run it at some point. the likelihood is, if you don't start on the hard tyre, you'll probably finish the race on it, so you'll probably come in on the start of the last lap to change over.
Yeah, we've seen it become a bit of a trend now for drivers to get rid of the softer, the harder compounded tyres, so the medium and the hard, of course, and then just go for the double stint on the soft, which I think is what's happening a bit lower down the field. Here's someone who hasn't pitted yet, Carlos Salazar, now probably best known, unfortunately, at the moment for his pit stop boo-boo at Barcelona. That was one of his high points, I think. Looking to try and maybe redeem himself slightly. Done alright so far. He did start in last place, so he's up to P10 right now. So he's made 6th places on that soft tyre, of course. The others behind him have pitted. He's now looking to harry Nabai and Scabilia in front. Will he be able to do that? Looks at the inside. No, that's Nabai. They're going to be inside of Scabilia, or trying to anyway. They're now side by side coming through the bus stop, and that's going to actually allow Salazar to sneak by. So that can happen though. If you start squabbling with each other, it's quite easy to lose time and then allow the guy behind to get closer. Salazar's going to take 2 for 1. Thank you very much. Update if he goes.
Lovely stuff there from Carlos Salazar. So he is through into 8th place. Just a reminder, he hasn't made a pit stop yet. Look at Scabilia's run though, coming out of La Source. So Salazar sent it up the inside. That's compromised his run, and now it's going to allow him to go through. Speaking of going through, here comes Connaughton all over the back of Baptiste Beauvoir, not able to find his way past into 2nd position. But did Salazar come to blows once again with Scabilia going through there? Not quite. So Scabilia, the Frenchman, just holds station in 9th place as things stand at the moment, but it's getting quite interesting here between these guys. Of course, Salazar's tyres a little bit older than Scabilia's, despite of course them being the quicker compound. They're coming towards the end of their useful shelf life at the moment in this race on lap 5. It's quite a long lap here at Spa-Francorchamps, 7 kilometres in total. One of the longer laps that we have raced in the top 16 Superstars to date, so it's quite a lot of wear to go on through these tyres, especially with these medium speed corners like Pouon going through here.
Yeah, that front right tyre gets a bit of a beating through there, and you can imagine that loads of load going on that front right corner. Meanwhile, here is Jones on the soft compounder tyre. Now he has pitted, so this is going to be a fresher compound than Nabai in front, so he might have the car under him to get by, but we're going to be able to make that actually happen. This is one of the big things that can really affect strategy around here, is if you are on the soft compounder tyre and you are thinking, oh man, I'm really quick right now, that's great. But if you get stuck behind someone who isn't as quick, then you're just wasting the tyre. Here we are now. Are they going to go side mirror to mirror, side by side through punishment? Looks like it. We'll give it a go. Jones has just given the room on the outside, but there's only really one line through there to get by unless you have a lot more of an overspeed. Now, interestingly, as there's a little bit of a tap there, I think, coming into the bus stop. Beauvoir's come in now, Tom. He's gone onto the soft tyre.
Baptiste Beauvoir in then onto the soft tyre, as you said, so let's see how that's going to affect things. Where's he going to emerge here, crucially? He's going to emerge behind 5th position of Giorgio Mangano and Swiderick as well. That could potentially be a little bit costly here, because as Jimmy mentioned it earlier on, he'll be stuck in that dirty air, but let's see with fresher rubber underneath him what he is going to be able to do. Just behind him, Coque Lopez, Carlos Salazar, Thomas Scabilia not too far adrift. Then there's that squabbling duo of Matthew Jones and Ramzan Nabai, drivers who we were talking about just a few moments ago, going into the bus stop chicane. So in towards Les Combes we go. Now, what can Baptiste Beauvoir do? Lap 6 out of 16 we're on here for this top 16 Superstars race. And look at Mangano trying to send it down the inside of Swiderick. Oh, he's getting very aggressive into there. Swiderick runs a little bit deep. Was there a bit of contact into there? Not quite sure. The upshot is, though, Mangano is now through ahead of the Polish driver into 4th place.
I think a bit rude, but you know, racing isn't always polite, so Mangano needed to make that move and he made it. And Swiderick now behind, of course, on that medium tyre is running a little bit slower than the guys around him. Let's see if both walking a long way around here at the chicane, the Fagnes chicane. Oh, he's going to do it as well, I think. He's just got a nose there. No, he had to back out of it. That would have been sweet. And Swiderick, oh, he's gone onto the slippery Astro on the right there and found his way to the wall very quickly indeed. That'll be one, embarrassing for Swiderick, and two, a big punch to the steering wheel, I think, because that's his podium charge over now for him, I think.
Well, you may have seen the video on social media about the commentator's curse, and we can confirm it is alive and well in this top 16 Superstars race. Thanks to Jimmy Broadbent. Nice one there, Jimmy. You did exactly the same last time with the Americas region. I've
noticed that a lot of those clips were me. So
they were, yes.
Gotta be careful who I speak about. Sorry, guys. That'd probably be nice in the future. So let's get back to the race, though. So Rick Kevlin has come into the pits. He's gone on the hard tyres, so that'll be a small stop for him. Where's Rick been in this race? Rick's been pretty quick in Nations recently, but not today, it seems.
I don't think he particularly likes these high downforce cars. I remember him saying something similar, if memory serves me correctly, about the Rebel X 2019 cars last time as well. Here comes Coque Lopez, though, trying to find his way past Baptiste Beauvoir. Beauvoir squeezing him to the outside as he got a great run, did Lopez, coming through Radion, up in towards Leykun we go. On the brakes, Beauvoir defends the line perfectly. Lopez has to just back off for a moment or two and has to hold his charge. Now, if you can get a good run through turn 7, maybe into turn 8, but again, not quite close enough. And that's the thing here, you have to be quite patient, don't you?
Oh, well, sorry, I'm just, there's a non-Audi in the field.
A Peugeot?
In the 908. Good to see it out there. Good to see it, diesel fest here at Spa, it seems. But he's about to get absolutely mugged by Salazar there up into Rivage. That's a easy position there for Carlos, and I think it's going to be the same way with Zarka behind in the other Audi R18. There he goes. So again, a bit of the curves coming in for Mr. Kapay there, but he's on the medium tyre, so we do expect him to be a bit slower than these guys. But it just seems the Audi round here is definitely the car to have.
Yeah, I just have to say, I've got a real soft spot for that Peugeot. Absolutely love that machine. I think it looks beautiful. Not to take anything away from this Audi R18, of course, but yeah, that's Peugeot. Bit of a soft spot for that one, I must say. Here's Coque Lopez, though. P5 for him at the moment. A little bit of dust being kicked up in the foreground there. He's on board from Coque Lopez. He is, of course, will be sitting a little bit lower in that car, so he'll have a better view of the road than we'll have from this camera angle, thankfully. But when does Lopez come into the pit lane then for his next stop in this race? Just a reminder, of course, Gallo and Connaughton, the two people out in front in this one, have not pitted so far. They're still on the soft tyres that they started the race on. We're at half race distance now as Kevlam and Swiderick come into the pit lane, as does Belic as well. So, 3 drivers making stops on lap 8. But Valerio Gallo, despite that compromise start, I think it's fair to say, Jimmy, where he wasn't quite able to make the progress he wanted to, he has now pulled out quite a significant gap to the rest of the field.
So it seems that Gallo then is going to be attempting the 2-stop. Must be, because you would have come in for the other set of soft tyres by now if you were going to go for the 3-stop, like a lot of people seem to be doing at the moment. Of course, the downside to that is that he's going to start having quite worn tyres, and he's not going to be quite put in the gap he was. Maybe even starting to lose time to the guys behind. Collin now is starting to gain a bit, as has Mangano and Beauvoir. Though the gap back to third is about 12 seconds, so outside of Collin, it's quite a way back from the leader. So it might have paid off, but the second half of this race is going to be absolutely crucial for Gallo. He needs to really maximise everything he can out there. Otherwise, he's just going to drop back into this pack, and that'll be on fresher tyres, and it'll just be a sitting duck.
Yeah, let's see what is going to happen then. Just looking at Baptiste Beauvoir harrying that car through the chicane in towards Stavelot. So many recognisable parts of this lap at Spa-Francorchamps as well, actually, and it's been modified a little bit over the years, of course, with Eau Rouge and Radion being reprofiled, the bus stop chicane being reprofiled, and also La Source as well being moved a little bit further back. Start-finish line being made a little bit more straight. Used to start on the curve, of course, back until 2006, and it's still a circuit that's absolutely oozing character in every crevice of tarmac that it has, but you can see these drivers just harrying one another coming through here. It's such a joy to watch them. What is Baptiste Beauvoir going to be able to do, though? Is he going to launch an attack on Giorgio Mangano for third position? On the brakes we go into La Source. Good run out of here, of course, can really help you, and we know how much that slipstream comes into effect here. Of course, Mangano doesn't have the benefit of it, whereas Beauvoir does. Now he's going to get a good run, surely, coming through Eau Rouge and Radion, up onto the top of the Kemmel Straight. Up the climb we go, and he has got a good run. He's got the slipstream as well. Is Mangano going to squeeze him to the outside? Not too much. They run side by side with one another for third position. Beauvoir versus Mangano. Beauvoir's got the track position, and on the brakes, he has got third place ahead of the Italian.
Yeah, he set that up at the bus stop, believe it or not. He was so much faster through the bus stop than Mangano was. He was just able to then get onto the back of the Italian driver, and then goes Coque Lopez. He wants some of that as well. Of course, teammates at the moment. No love lost there as Coque Lopez forces his way by at Rivage, and now into the newly named X corner. We come down towards Corn again. This is where Mangano doesn't want to be, because he's about to get a face full of dirty air coming through here. So right down there, saying that he is absolutely glued to the back of Coque Lopez, so just murdering those front tyres through there to try and stay with Lopez. So maybe he And maybe he's happy being there right now. I don't know. It's difficult when you have your teammate out there because you don't want to push him too hard. But if he overtakes you, he'll be shouting, right, go! If you're going to overtake me, go catch Beauvoir and slow him up so I can catch you both up. So it can be quite tricky when you have your teammate with you.
You see all of the field, by the way, aside from Thomas Kabedia running on the soft compound of tyre in this middle stage of this race. Some drivers have made 2 pit stops, other drivers such as Bellick have made 3. Now here comes the race leader into the pit lane, Valerio Gallo. Is Connaughton going to follow suit from second place as well? Onto the medium tyres for the middle stint then. Valerio Gallo doing exactly what we thought he would do, and he'll go onto the hard tyres for the final lap of this race. But Connaughton, I don't think he's coming to the pit lane here. I think he's carried on for one more lap, so maybe he knows something we don't. Indeed he has. So at La Source, Connaughton comes through, and it's a side-by-side drag surely between Gallo and Connaughton. Connaughton, of course, will be a little bit quicker, his tyres will be that little bit warmer, but Gallo's are significantly newer, so this is going to be a nice, interesting little run up the top onto the straight once we go again. Now, is Connaughton going to have a good run on Gallo? You can guarantee he probably will do. Is he going to try and take the lead away from the Italian driver as well? Don't think he's quite close enough, and I think there's a little bit of a hesitation there from the Finnish driver.
Gallo there, I think, was almost communicating with Connaughton, saying like, no, don't do it, please don't do it, like, you're going to slow us up, you know. I want the fresh tyre, and then Connaughton kind of went, yeah, okay, fair enough. But you know, you might be wondering, how the hell did Gallo stay ahead there coming out the pit lane? That's the beauty of hybrid, ladies and gentlemen. The acceleration of these cars from low speed is frankly unmatched anywhere in the world, any race car. So if you're coming out the pit lane at 70 k's, you press the magic happy button, and all of a sudden you're doing the same speed as the guy who's come out the corner behind you. So it's a bit of an advantage, I should say, for these guys coming out there. But of course they're all in the same car, so it's an advantage they all share. Looking back now from Gallo, you can see why I think he was hesitant to let Connaughton through that gap already up to a second. Now Baptiste Beauvoir behind, he's someone to watch out for, and Lopez, because now the gap's behind. Second behind us is Connaughton, second behind Connaughton is Beauvoir, second behind Beauvoir is Lopez. So still 4 cars realistically now within a chance to win it.
Yeah, it's going to get quite interesting this in the closing stages, as it normally does. We normally see this mid-race lull, to not put too fine a point on it. Now Connaughton comes into the pit lane then at the end of lap 10, so he is out of the way, and now it is a straight dogfight between Gallo, Beauvoir and Lopez. Potentially Mangano here as well, if he can close up the gap as well for that position. But at the moment it is just getting closer to that 3-way scrap. There is Koke Lopez, so 2 of the Williams Esports cars in first and third position respectively. Beauvoir, the odd one out for the Veloce Esports team, coming through the corner and over onto the hill once again. Now here is Rick Cavalum, who, as we said, has really been all at sea, but he's got a good run on Carlos Salazar here. Of course, Cavalum got slightly fresher, softer compound of tyres compared to Carlos Salazar, and you can see the overspeed he's got coming through over the top of the hill and onto the Camel Straight. And look at how much drive he has got and momentum through there. Pulls alongside the Portuguese driver down the Camel Straight in towards Lake Coombe. It's going to be a nice easy move surely here on the brakes for Rick Cavalum. Is Salazar going to defend? He does. They just run side by side, but eventually Cavalum gets ahead. But Salazar's not taking this line down, I have to say. He is still aggressive, but he has lost a bit of time running wide as a result of a bit of contact between them coming out of turn 7, though.
Yeah, there you go.
Penalty to boot.
At some point, you have to just give it up. You know, you might think, oh man, I can still do this, but at some point, you've got to be realistic and say, well, he's going to take his line at some point. A bit of a flash there for Cavalum, but I think really, Carlos, that was a loss before you went off the circuit. But yeah, a 0.5 second penalty, that isn't going to help. He's had 2 penalties now, Salazar, just not able to avoid them, it seems. But now Rick's got a chance to try and close into the guys in front. But 8 seconds is the gap now between him and the nearest competitor ahead, which is Giorgio Mangano. So big ask at this point, and I think he still requires a stop too.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You can see on the top right-hand corner of your screen the fuel multiplier times 2, the tyre multiplier significantly more than that. So, as Jimmy normally alludes to, 1 lap is the equivalent to 6 laps here. And, well, it's not a short lap either at Spa-Francorchamps, so by the time these drivers come to the end of their stints on their respective tyres, they're going to be pretty second-hand, I think it's fair to say. So in towards La Source we go now. Here is Mangano, who's closed right up onto the back of Marcus Connaughton. Connaughton, of course, on the medium compound tyre, whereas Mangano is on the quicker soft compound. Now, is he going to be able to do anything? Into the corner we go once again. Eau Rouge and Rallion. It's a favourite opportunity to get something set up because Lecoum is such an opportunist passing place there. You can see the run he's got, just how much more speed he has, and he has the advantage, of course, of the slipstream here as well. Does Giorgio Mangano. He's going to pull to the inside, surely. Don't think he's quite close enough to make a move. Indeed, he is not, but maybe just signalling his intentions on lap 12, maybe trying to set up something for the next time around.
I thought I'd be able to catch him there, and a great run coming over the top there, and just didn't quite really been through into the straight. But yeah, just letting him know he's there right now. The tyre advantage will be definitely helping Mangano at this point, but the dirty air will not be, as we say oh so many times. At the front of the field, by the way, Baptiste Beauvoir is starting to catch Gallo. The gap now down to 1.7 seconds, about 2.5 or so, when Colin came into the pit lane. So that soft tyre is definitely helping the French driver. I think is maybe Gallo's now starting to think about this, I think, thinking, oh, am I going to be able to defend this? Because they both have to come into the pits one more time for the hard compounder tyres. So this is really the battle now. That battle will go down to the end now between Baptiste Beauvoir and Gallo. Coque Lopez just not quite able to get onto the back of them, and Colin and Mangano a bit further behind them. And meanwhile, Mangano looking to try and remedy that up the inside there of Colin, who doesn't fight it too hard. I think he knows that tyre disadvantage is definitely in his disfavour right now. So he's going to let that go. Mangano up into 4th.
Lovely stuff there from Giorgio Mangano. Colin then into P5. What is he going to be able to do, though? Here is that gap, as you said, coming down. 1.5 seconds it now sits at between Valerio Gallo and Baptiste Beauvoir. That's about 0.3 of a second less than it was last time around. So Gallo's tyres, of course, on the mediums, a little bit slower. Beauvoir on the softer tyres, even though he's been on them for just a tidbit longer than Gallo. Will be a bit faster. Nabai comes into the pit lane, the Russian driver from P13. Unlucky for some, but not so for him, as he comes out on the medium tyre for his next stop in this race. A lot of drivers are going to be pitting on the end of the penultimate lap, the start of the final lap in this race. You can see drivers who have made one pit stop still got one more to make. He must make a minimum of 2 stops. You must run each tyre compound through here, and you can see Beauvoir is just driving so hard at the moment, trying to catch that gap up to Valerio Gallo, and this is going to set it up an absolute treat, I reckon, for these final 3 laps in this race here, Jimmy. We could be on for a nice little scrap between the Italian and the Frenchman.
I think we will, mate. I think we will. I think it's going to happen. Gallo still, of course, having to deal with the mediums. Beauvoir's tyres now will be starting to go the other way, though, so they won't quite have the same speed they had at the start of the stint. But they both have to come in one more time for that hard tyre, and it's going to come down to who's quicker on that hard compounder tyre. Now, what we expect to see, if you're maybe new to watching this, is that basically the game is get rid of the hard tyre. That is the strategy. Get rid of it as soon as you can. So you have to use it, though. So what we tend to see, as Tom said earlier on, is either you use it right at the start of the race for 1 lap and get rid of it, or right at the end of the race for 1 lap and then finish with it. And that is what we think we're going to see here from Gallo and Beauvoir, because they both own the tyre. There will be 3 laps remaining, including the lap they're on when they cross the line. And I think they'll be coming in at the end of lap 15 to put that hard tyre on for the last final lap. But importantly now, Gallo, the gap is kind of stabilising now. If anything, Gallo is starting to pull out a bit more time.
Yeah, let's see how that develops. Just to mention, by the way, of course, if you're wondering, some of these drivers perhaps not quite as quick as everybody else, these are the top 16 drivers who have qualified for this race in the EMEA region. They are all deserving to be here on their own merit, and have been putting in, I'm sure, countless hours of practice to get themselves into these races. So it's a credit to them, even if they may not be battling at the sharp end of the grid, to be able to get into these races. There's Carlos Salazar into the pit lane. He comes out on the medium compound of tyres from the softs then. So let's see what he is going to be able to do from 12th position. Other drivers around him may have to pit if they're running a 2 or 3 stop strategy in this race. Now coming through turn 8 down towards turn 9 here for Valerio Gallo. That gap going back up to just over 2 seconds for the first time in a few laps or so. So Gallo's just found a bit of rhythm, or maybe Beauvoir's tyres are starting to go off. I'm wondering here as well, because fuel is at times 2 and it's a very fuel heavy circuit given the length of the lap here, maybe that will have something to do with the final pit stop. If drivers have got to take a bit more fuel on board than somebody else, I wonder whether that could play a factor given how close Gallo and Beauvoir are on track.
Yeah, we tend to see times 2 not really being a fuel race most of the time, but we haven't seen many of the stops, so I can't tell you if they're putting in fuel or not. We'll see, of course, when they come in, because we have a very fancy pit stop graphic that shows you both fuel and tyres what are going on, of course, and we're going to see that very soon. I'm very sure of that as well. So Gallo, his job now, he's leading this race. He needs to just get his head down and make sure this last lap on that medium compound tyre is as fast as it can possibly be, and then just focus on the pit entry. That sounds very silly to do, but you have to make sure you're getting a good entry into the pit lane, because you can lose time there as well. Now, interestingly, Coque Lopez decided to go a lap earlier onto that harder compounded tyre. I don't know, Tom, we tend to see that even a worn soft tyre is quicker than a hard compound, so you see he's still got 34 litres in the tank there, so fuel's definitely not an issue at all for Coque, but maybe just unable to get those soft tyres working at all at the moment.
Maybe so. Where is he going to come out of the pit lane is a crucial question here, because he is going to emerge, I think, yeah, he is, behind Marcus Connaughton, and that will potentially cost him, because he'll be stuck in the dirty air as well here. So it's interesting. It might not have worked out for Coque Lopez unless he's planning to play rear gunner to Valerio Gallo in this one and just try and back him up a little bit. But I just wonder whether that's going to be a strategy that's going to work. We've only got fewer than 2 laps now remaining here at Spa-Francorchamps, and Lopez, it's an interesting one, that. I'm not sure if it's going to work out, but maybe he knows something we don't. Let's see. Into Leukun we go. As expected, he hasn't closed up onto the back of Connaughton, who is on the medium tyres. He, of course, has still got to make one pit stop, and will be coming in at the end of this lap as well. But it's getting pretty interesting. 2.5 seconds now since the gap between Gallo and Baptiste Beauvoir at the front of this race. Elsewhere in the field, everybody else pretty stable, I think it's fair to say. Nabai and Busnelli are pretty close on track for 14th and 15th position, as Busnelli, the Italian driver, now gets ahead of the Russian. But otherwise, everybody relatively calm out there on track there so far. But of course we have got those final pit stops, which could change things around just a trifle.
No, before we get into it, I would have loved to see the hard tyre be a bit more viable in these events. I think what they need is maybe like a 10% speed increase or grip increase for that hard tyre to actually make it useful. Because at the moment, it's just it feels having to use all the tyre compounds and one of the compounds is basically just like do one lap of this and get rid of it. Doesn't seem right to me, but we'll see Gallo now come into the pit lane. As he does, he'll go on to that aforementioned hard compounder tyre. There is pit crew ready with the fresh set of Michelin tyres. We'll only see 1 lap low. 28 litres left in the tank, so yeah, plenty of fuel to the end. They're all about the same sort of fuel load, so no one's really gaining or slowing at all there. So we should see Gallo come out ahead, about 2 seconds ahead. Coque Lopez, let's see where he comes out. He went to the hard tyre early, but we'll see where he pops out now. So he comes out of the pit lane. There is Beauvoir in front. He comes out in 3rd place, where he was. Mangano behind, about a second there, so they're all separated by enough of a gap to really not bother each other. Mangano is really the only person that might be able to catch Lopez.
Yeah, that's interesting that. I didn't think it was going to be a strategy that worked out there for Coque Lopez. Here is Connaughton trying to find his way through against Valerio Gallo. This is on the final lap, of course. Connaughton on the hard tyre. Kevlem, sorry, apologies. My apologies, get that right. Kevlem, of course, in P5. So Kevlem on the softer compound of tyre here, but of course Connaughton on the hard tyre, so you'd expect Kevlem to be able to hold his own at least through the corners, and indeed Connaughton is not able to get himself close enough. So on the final lap then, very deep into turn 8 as well.
Yeah, I felt that understeer in my soul there for Connaughton. That was all sorts of like a nothing happening there, but Kevlem actually, to go back to him, that's worked out okay for him. I think 5th place. He was saying he wasn't really enjoying these cars right now. He's on a soft tyre, so maybe if he really hustles it, he might be able to bother Mangano right at the end of the race side, and I doubt he'll get there. But that's worked out okay for someone who doesn't like these cars. 5th place would be a really good result for him. Here's Baptiste Beauvoir, just didn't quite have the pace, did he, Tom? Didn't quite have the pace to catch Gallo at the end there. Nor did Lopez, and they're just that little gap between them all at this point. So I think Lopez will be happy with 3rd, but I think Beauvoir will be upset about 2nd place, especially given Gallo's issue at the start of the race.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, Valerio Gallo, you can't take it away from him, started on the softer compound of tyre, made hay whilst the sun shines, and through the bus stop he comes now to take a dominant win in the top 16 Superstars race for the EMEA region. Gallo takes the checkered flag and the win for round 10 of the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. Beauvoir comes home 2nd, and Coque Lopez makes it the Williams Esports podium in 1st and 3rd position, with 3rd place there for the Spanish driver. Mangano finishes 4th. Kevelam in the top 5. A good result there for the Dutchman ahead of Kononen, Tapai, Skabedia and Swiderick. But a very impressive performance there from Valerio Gallo. A well-deserved victory from him, keeping himself calm and cool under pressure. And that is exactly what we love to see in the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. The other drivers coming over the timing line to complete their race. Here are the final standings. You can see Gallo takes the win ahead of Beauvoir and Lopez on the podium. Mangano, Kevelam, Kononen, Tapai, who actually got the fastest lap in that 9:08. So it's good for one thing, and maybe that's one lap pace, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, apparently not much use in this race though. But you saw what it meant to go there, weaving at the end. I was afraid he might actually bin it with that weaving coming up to the bus stop, but definitely a happy result for him. There are 9 to 16 standings there. Carlos Salazar again didn't really work out for him. A couple of penalties in that race. He did start last at 14th. I guess it's an improvement, but still, for someone of that speed, 14th is not somewhere he wants to be.
Let's take a look, shall we, and see what it means for the championship standings. So the championship standings after the 10th round of the top 16 superstars, Baptiste Beauvoir still leads the way there, Jimmy. But Valerio Gallo, after that win, leapfrogs Lopez and Kevelam.
Yeah, strong showing from Gallo, and deservedly so, gaining a place there in the championship. Although, saying that, after that, there isn't really much of a change. Kononen, who had a good race as well, moves up. Patrick Blajan, who we didn't even see in that race, moves down, of course, as well. And Salazar, bad to worse for him, down to 14th in the standings as well. So, some movers there, but Gallo definitely going to be very happy after that one.
Well, a very strong result indeed there for our drivers. Interesting to see the movers and the non-movers in the EMEA region for the Nations Cup. Let's see what happens in the Manufacturer Series. So then, a look at the Mazda RX Vision Gran Turismo Group 3 cars. Jimmy, what do you think of that? Personally, aesthetically, I think it looks beautiful.
It's alright, that, isn't it? It's making my little MX-5 at home feel a little bit small, a little bit old, I think. And obviously, I'm a bit of an audiophile. The sound of it, the rotary reed, as we like to call it. And I remember when we were at Monaco, we had the Mazda representative kind of unveiling it and showing it all off. And he kind of made the comment that, we don't know if it's going to be a rotary yet. Yeah, we knew it was going to be 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. What a machine it was. Well, Group 3 cars are the order of the day in the Manufacturer Series as well. So let's focus on that because we're racing at the Autodromo de Interlagos for this race. As we said, in Group 3 cars. And Jimmy, this is a track that, again, is another driver favourite.
Yeah, a couple of really, really good circuits today. Spa and now Interlagos. If you're familiar with F1, you'll know this circuit back to front, and it comes up a lot in GT Sport 2. Again, like most circuits, split into 3 sectors here, with the first and third sector being very fast, where slipstreaming is the name of the game. Where the middle sector, it's all about cornering speed, mid-corner and low-speed corners. Massive run there from the bottom of the circuit at Junkel all the way up to T1. Great if you're behind someone, but not so good if you're leading, of course. Best overtaking spots probably down at T1 and at T3 if you're feeling brave. Definitely one of those circuits that separates the good drivers from the bad ones.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these drivers are faring over the course of that race. I think it's fair to say. Of course, the drivers had to qualify for the race for the EMEA region as well. And, well, I wonder what the pole lap's going to look like.
Well, you know what, Tom, I'll take you through it because I'm nice like that. So, we'll go then to our pole lap. On board with Thomas Scabilia representing a Lamborghini, so in the Huracan Group 3 car. Luckily for him, we've got a big draft down the main straight. That's Valerio Gallo in front of us there. Big break there, of course, for T1 into the Senna S. Use all the curb on the inside there to open up the exit as much as possible, and then try and hug this inside curb here, and then let the car very gently drift out to the exit of T3. Now we're in the draft, coming down the straight here up towards T4. Look to the right hand side, look for your braking markers there. So we're just past the 100 marker. Again, use all the curb on the inside. You can let the car float to the exit, but the corner does sort of camber away there, so be careful or you might end up being dragged off into the undergrowth. Now T6, very fun pass corner. Throw the car in, there you go. Double apex, tap the second one, then drift out to the exit. Now slow the car right down here and use all this curb and a bit more on the inside. All about being neat and tidy through this midsection here. Use a groove on the inside, and again use that curb on exit to extend the corner slightly. Now slow the car back down all the way down to second gear, some even using first through there. And now coming down this long left-hander. A bit of a balance on the throttle down here in these Group 3 cars. Not quite flat as you'd expect from a car with downforce. And now for Junkau, big hit of the brakes. Throw the car in, and again you want to use as much exit as possible here, but you see what happens if you get it a little bit wrong there. Gallo goes a bit wide in front and that slows himself down on exit, and that means we're going to get a big old draft all the way down the main straight. And luckily for Thomas, that draft helped him get to pole position. I think that's his first pole here in the Manufacturers Series. A great result for the French driver.
Over to the grid for the start of the Manufacturers Series race for the EMEA region, and here is how they line up. We just saw that brilliant pole position, of course, from Thomas Scabilia in the Lamborghini. He lines up, of course, at the front of the grid for this rolling start. Alongside him, the man who has been on top form lately, Mikhail Hazal, the 2019 Nations Cup World Champion. Adam Tapai, the Hungarian, lines up in third place. The 4GT up there in the sharp end of the field. Valerio Gallo, our hot pick for this race, is in P4 as well in the Honda NSX. The BMW of Koke Lopez, his fellow Williams Esports teammate, is P5. Then it's the Veloce Esports car of Baptiste Beauvoir, the Mercedes-Benz, in P6. Martin Grady in the Audi R8 lines up 7th place, better qualifying for him compared to last time. And Nicky Romero in P8. 9th position on the grid is Abraham Hagen, and let's go over and talk to our newcomer, David Villa, ahead of the race.
Before a race, I repeat to myself the mistakes not to do. I have no particular routine, but I try to drive as much as possible before the start. My biggest challenge being regular lap after lap with a difficult car on the technical part of this circuit. Before the start, try to clear my mind, to relax, and I only think of finishing the first lap. See you soon on the track.
So that's our grid then for the Manufacturers Series race. Our hot pick for this one, as we were saying, Jimmy, Valerio Gallo, obvious choice really.
Yeah, just off the back of his Nations Cup result, of course he'll be buzzing at the moment, so probably taking that through into the race. It's starting 4th from the grid, so definitely in with a shot, of course, but interesting to note, top 8 drivers on the same compound of tyre, all opting for that medium compound.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do, whether they're going to run long in the opening stages of this one. The likes of Deckers, Galazzi, as well as Foncesa and Squirturito may start on the hard tyre, but they will probably pit after the end of that first lap. It's a very long run up to the line here at the Autodromo do Interlagos. Drivers just, of course, getting the heat in their tyres and preparing themselves for this assault. 20 laps of this circuit in Sao Paulo, and whoever is going to emerge on top, we have no idea. The momentum at the moment, you would argue, is with the likes of Hazal and Gallo based on their previous results here, but maybe Scabilia can spring a few surprises with that Lamborghini Huracan. We're about to find out though, as round 10 of the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships Top 16 Superstars race gets underway for the Manufacturers Series. Down towards the Senna S we go for the first time. The drivers just trying to get the heat in their tyres as they weave in towards that first turn. Scabilia holds on, the rolling start just making things a little bit more stable through those first couple of corners, but it's the run coming down the Retroposta as they do now in towards the left-hander, where we could see the first moves being made here, Jimmy.
Yeah, interesting to see what the guys have in terms of straight line speed. That Ford not too quick in a straight line, of course. Well, I say that, I think it's just the Impreza in front is. There is Gallo, of course, our hot pick for this race. He's up behind Pay at the moment, the Hungarian driver representing Ford. Ford have been always there or thereabouts, I think, in the top 5 or so in the last few races that I've been watching, so good to see them still there as well, because they're already putting pressure on Thomas Gavilia, our pole sitter right now. You couldn't have two more different cars if you tried. The boxy Subaru versus the sleek, elegant Lamborghini Huracan. Come up now to one of the tightest corners on the circuit. Heavy brake into here. So not quite full brake on the way in, quite easy to lock the tyres if you're not being too careful. And now we go downhill. Watch the throttle input on the right there. Nowhere near flat down here as you'd expect with a car with more downforce. But I think Mick Kazal in that very, very quick Subaru looking for a move into T1. Maybe even before then.
Great slipstream he's got coming out then in towards the real long drag over the timing line. Will Hazal be able to do anything? Will he be able to dart out of that slipstream? He's right behind Skabilia here as they come over the timing line to start the second lap. Then Skabilia goes defensive. Hazal has to go for the long way around the outside under braking. Skabilia moves over. Hazal darts to the inside, sells him a dummy, goes up the inside. Can he make it stick? But Skabilia holds his line, holds it firm. That's rough and ready racing from those boys, but very respectful as well.
Yeah, Hazal really making Skabilia drive with its mirrors. He wants to try and keep that first place for now, but of course what that means is everybody else gets a little bit of a freebie. Allowed to get a little bit closer as we come on down to T number 4. Now we go up the hill again, T5 here, before my favourite corner on the circuit, T6. This double apex right-hander, so tricky to get right, but of course our pros have no issue with it. We're going to get a nice onboard view here from the Ford. Tap the second apex there, let the car run wide. You can use a lot of that curb on exit there, as Hazal is doing, and you can see you can really just decrease that angle onto the right hand and get a better run through. Right now I think Hazal is being held up by Skabilia, it looks like.
One of the things we were talking about in the first race, Jimmy, was of course the dirty air with those Group 1 cars, very pronounced given their very high downforce. These cars of course are still pretty high downforce, but it's not quite as effective, that dirty air, is it?
No, not quite the same deal on these things. Not quite that amount of downforce as you said, Tom. So the dirty air is reduced, and you can get a little bit closer when racing quickly. Of course, for the middle sector, it doesn't even matter anyway because of how slow it is through there. We'll see how things go now. We come onto the straight again. Hazal in position. He's a bit further back this time. I think he's going to be trying to use that draft for a bit longer as opposed to running side by side. Here we are. Will he get the overspeed? I don't think he will. He's not quite that close. Nearly topping 160 mile an hour here, and big lift there, Tom. Big lift. Trying to save a bit of fuel, maybe.
Yeah, I was talking to Mikhail Hazal yesterday, actually, before we went live for this race, and asking what his strategy was and how he prepared for these races. And he was just explaining how they run through a variety of different strategies, essentially, just to try and make sure they've got the optimum one. And you would expect, given the fact that these drivers are pretty open with one another, they might have shared it with a few of their fellow competitors. So maybe Hazal might have shared it with another couple of drivers, and they'll all be running on a similar strategy. Given the top 8 are running on the medium competitive tyre, you would imagine they're going to run similar sort of strategies as well. But let's see, things can change. Running on board here with Valerio Gallo, the winner from the Nations Cup race. He's with Honda in the Manufacturer Series, signed a contract with that team, or that brand rather I should say, and is now racing in P4. Good job for Valerio Gallo there, and he'll be riding the crest of a wave after that Nations Cup performance as well. Into the right-hander we go, very hard on the brakes, opportune place to get past, of course. That's where Alex Albon lost his podium in Formula 1 in 2019, courtesy of contact with Lewis Hamilton. Well, Alex Albon or Super GT, whichever way you want to look at it.
Steve.
But anyway, Gallo just running a little bit wide there. So a good overtaking opportunity going into that right-hander. Plenty of overtaking opportunities given the width of this circuit as well. And you can see these guys just running so close to one another in the opening stages of this one. Skabilia, despite having the race lead, hasn't been able to pull out a gap as we've seen in other races there, Jimmy.
And at the moment, definitely being kept with, where everybody behind right now. Not really many gaps until you get to about 8th place or so. Everyone's very, very close. So a mistake from either of these guys is going to cost you quite a few positions. So people just kind of happy to run line astern at the moment. Just kind of not show their hand too early. Only 4 laps into this race. Only that race around here, of course, with the 3 times fuel consumption and 4 times tyre wear. So a couple of pit stops happening at the back of the field as well. We're starting to get a look at some of the people's strategies around here, so we'll see what everyone's up to. Meanwhile, back to the front of the field here is Skabilia, still with that Subaru just attached to the rear diffuser there, almost like it's being towed along. But passing around is quite difficult unless you're very much faster in a straight line. You see Mick now, he's got a bit of an overlap, but he's on the outside. He won't be able to make that work, unfortunately. And Skabilia comes back round and will just take the line. So Mick has to wait a little bit longer. It's great driving by Skabilia to keep him behind. There's always a pressure when you're driving. Of course, these guys drive together quite often, so they know each other quite well. But if you look in the mirror and go, oh, that's the 2019 Nations Cup champ behind me, it can change how you drive a little bit.
Do you think he could be compromising his hour's race? Do you think his strategy would have been to get to the front of the race and try and pull an advantage over the likes of Skabilia and the remainder of the field? Or do you think this is part of what he was thinking?
Well, I mean, you know how Zell works. He always likes to just lead and then drive away, really. We've seen some issues with him if he has to fight back with the pack sometimes. So, well, we might be seeing now that change for leads. He's looking up the inside now in the T1. He had the better run. The hazards are on to say, well, I'm coming by, that's that done, and Hidal is passed. Now we'll get to see, Tom, if that is the strategy. Will he pull away or not?
Speaking of different strategies as well, Martin Grady's making his second pit stop in this race. Went onto the hard tyres last time around, has come onto the soft tyre there now, so he's going to run those for a good amount of time. You would therefore imagine that Grady is probably going to 3-stop in this race. Here comes the British driver out of the pit lane with the Audi R8. Of course, so close they came to that podium, if you remember, last year in our World Tour events. I think it was back in Tokyo or Monaco, one of the two, and it all went Pete Tong, for want of a better expression, right at the very end of that one.
Monaco, they get very close to a podium overall, right at the end. I actually watched that clip as part of that compilation we mentioned earlier, the commentator's curse, and every time I watch it, it really hurts me. It really hurts me watching that, but it happens, you know. So let's look at the gaps. So here's Mick Hazal, our leader. He is pulling away slightly, 6/10 now of the gap to Skabilia. Not rocketing away, I think it's fair to say, but is putting out a little bit of a gap. And the gaps are starting to get a little bit more stretched now as we get into it, and those medium tyres start to wear. Now, one of the great things for me about the Manufacturer Series, as we look at Baptiste both while there and 6th in the AMG Mercedes, is that whilst of course everyone's on the same tyre at the moment, the cars use the tyres differently. And what I mean by that is if you're in something that maybe is mid-engine, you tend to see the rear tyre wear be a little bit higher than something in the front engine, which tends to kind of wear its front tyres a bit more. So it's interesting to see how the tyre wear affects different cars as time goes on. So here is on board still with Baptiste Beauvoir, the Veloci esports driver, now in the tow of Coco Lopez. Of course, he's maybe I'm not sure, it's a while ago now, but he of course part of the winning team in Sydney. BMW, the Manufacturer Series, their first ever win.
It was a very long time ago, wasn't it, actually, for Coco Lopez. It was changed over to that BMW brand last year as well, after the team won back in Paris for World Tour 1. If you hark back to that, it seems like ever such a long time ago now, and it was really, if you think about it. But anyway, come back to that in a few moments, because Valerio Gallo is looking very aggressive against Adam Tapai here, coming through the left-hander as they begin that climb into the right. Is Gallo going to think about something? I don't think he's going to try anything in this midfield section at the moment, but maybe he'll try and get a good run coming through Juncao and coming on to that long run down towards the Senna S. But definitely Gallo looking a lot more confident, and I think that's fair to say from the lap times as well. Oh, a little bit wide there. He just kicks up a bit of dust, but not causing him too much drama. You see, Gallo, of course, has got the advantage of the slipstream, but the sad thing here for the Italian is that Tapai in front also has the slipstream from Skabilia as well, so I wonder whether that is going to change things over the timeline we go. And again, yeah, Gallo just not able to get close enough in the slipstream here.
So that NSX there, it's not quite got that speed in the straight line, has it? It's quick in the corners, it seems, and in the low speed stuff it seems to be almost supreme, but on the straight there the Ford pulls in it, that V8 mounted in the middle of the car. Go back now to Skabilia, who is still with Hazal. That gap has actually gone back down a little bit now, so sometimes it's actually easier to follow someone than it is to lead. It's always when you get the bit between your teeth when you're chasing someone, but when you're leading, you kind of find you're driving your mirrors a little bit, and it can slow you down. So interesting to see that dynamic kind of unfold here. Back on board with Gallo now, that NSX. Look how much more speed he has there through the double right-hander. He's going to try and send one up the inside now, coming into the mid-section. He's going to be on the outside though for this left-hander. Unless he has a really great run, he's going to get stuck there. Now that is going to allow also Coco Lopez to get close as well. So you can go for a move, but you have to. Is it worth it? Is it worth opening yourself up to a move from somebody behind?
That is the question. Is it the £64,000 question, I think, really, for them? is, well, how do you play it? Look at Gallo, they're just looking so aggressive at the moment against that Honda. Against the Ford rather, in the Honda. Here is Coque Lopez, who's got a mirror full of Mercedes-Benz in the form of Baptiste Beauvoir. We know that Mercedes is not quite as dominant this year as we saw it last year. It was very quick to 2 back-to-back wins in our World Tour events, if you remember, in New York and in Salzburg. But this year, it's struggling a little bit, I think it's fair to say, in these top 16 superstars compared to its form previously. Nonetheless, still running very close indeed at the moment. And Gallo, if he wants to close up onto the back of Scabinia and Hazal, well, he needs this like a second nose at the moment because he's losing time as they just build out a gap to about 7/10 of a second in front.
They are side by side again, though. No, they've tucked back in. Oh, now Gallo's going for a lunge up here at T4. He's going to get it done too, I think. Really just froze up the inside, but that Ford, watch the acceleration now of the Ford as we go up towards the hill, up towards T6. He's got the inside line, and Coque Lopez is going to follow him through as well. So Gallo and his impatience is probably going to cost him 2 positions there, the maybe 3rd and also 4th, as Coque Lopez holds the inside, gives Gallo a little bit of a biff on the outside there. Can Gallo hold it around the outside, then take the position back here? Oh, well held there by Valerio Gallo. I thought that was lost for sure. And now Coque Lopez is having to fight with Baptiste Beauvoir. That's what we were talking about. As soon as you start squabbling, it opens up all sorts of opportunities for the guys behind, and Coque Lopez just about to fend 5th. So basically, they're all where they started. I was saying that, Beauvoir still looking up the inside, and now finally has to slot back in behind Coque Lopez. In the background, the dive there from Abraham Hagen. He goes up the inside of Romero, or tries to anyway, and now he's stuck there as well. Everyone's got very angry all of a sudden, Tom.
It's like watching a kart race, this, isn't it? These guys squabbling amongst one another like this. Now that's broken up the chain a little bit. There is Gallo, Lopez, I think Beauvoir coming into the pit lane there as well as Romero. So the top 5 continue on in this race. David Villa, who we heard from at the start of this one, and newcomer lining in P5 there in that Nissan. Now he just goes through. You can see him in the right hand side of your picture. The 2 Williams Esports cars coming out, lining astern between one another onto the softer compound of tyre here. Now, how is that going to affect their race? Crucially, of course, as we said, the top 5 have continued on in the form of Hazal, Scabinia, Tapai, Abraham Hagen and David Villa. So let's see what they're going to do. I think they're probably going to go, I would say, for the harder compound of tyre for a lap, and they'll probably run the softs towards the end, whereas other drivers around are running the softs now will probably run the hards at the end, so doing a bit of a reverse in strategy there.
So it's interesting. For those who made a stop right now, Deckers and Bellick are actually the ones that are ahead. I think they're going to go for the, what we like to say, the free stop, which is 2 soft tyres, a medium and a hard. But we'll see how that pans out. But there is Deckers, representing Ferrari, of course. Again, Renzi and Ferrari being represented at this level at the moment. A bit of a gap back to Bellick, but they are on older soft tyres now. So the tyres are going to be struggling a bit more. And they did pit pretty much right at the start of the race. Starting on that, I think they started on the harder compound. So, yeah, they're going to be struggling a bit now for tyre wear.
Yeah, that's a crucial thing, isn't it? It's managing that and finding the right balance, really. Here comes Hazal then into the pit lane, as does Scabinia as well. So those two following exactly the same strategy as one another, and that's going to set it up an absolute treat if they can continue to run very similar pace to what they were just a few moments ago. Also Tapai in the pit lane there, as you can see as well. Here comes Deckers, who's going to come out. Where will he emerge? Because it could be interesting. Maybe they'll end up splitting the 2 leaders at the moment. There is Deckers. Let's see what's going to happen as he goes out. Holds on to second place then in this race as Scabinia and Hazal come out as well. They're on the harder compound of tyre here, as is Tapai, but I think Tapai's lost a bit more time compared to Hazal and Scabinia, because he's right behind the traffic of Gallo, Beauvoir and Lopez here.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting how these guys all come out of the pit lane now, of course. Now, Deckers is going to be slow in second place, I think, with this soft compound of tyre, but is he going to be slow enough to be slower than a hard compound of tyre? We know that the difference between the soft and the hard is essentially night and day. Everyone's getting a bit feisty again. Scabinia and Gallo. Gallo likes to try and send it up the inside there, but he always puts himself on the outside, but he's driven clean around Thomas Scabinia there and up into 4th place. That's a very nice move. The soft tyres there paying dividends. And there is Coque Lopez too on that soft compounded tyre, just driving by Scabinia, who is just trying to hang on to that hard compounded tyre, but has no grip and no reply to any of his guys. There goes Beauvoir too. He just forces himself through, and Scabinia goes from 4th place down to 7th in the midsection.
Wow, big change there for Thomas Scabinia, and that could potentially be very compromising indeed for his race, because Hazal has just been able to hold off these guys as he comes into the pit lane. Then you can see they're just darting in, but the gap is a bit more pronounced now. Here comes Coque Lopez, who's in the slipstream of Valerio Gallo down in towards turn 1 of the CLRS, not able to find a way past there, but still looking pretty good in terms of his pace here. Now, where are the rest of the field going to emerge? Of course, it's such a long pit lane here, such a long time that you lose in the pits, that they're going to emerge back out in front in this race. Don't forget, of course, they have still got to make one more stop, though. You must run all 3 compounds of tyre in this Manufacturer Series race. Everybody now on the hard compound as well, except for Abraham Hagen, who is on the mediums. But here is Deckers, now in the Ferrari, that leads the way. Wouldn't have thought that earlier on.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if Deckers has played a blinder or not at the moment. It remains to be seen. You know how we are with strategy, is that we tend to learn the strategies that we think are going to be used, and then someone comes in and goes, well, screw you guys, I'm going to do do something else. and that tends to be what happens here. I'll be interested to see what Deckers is doing, because
I don't think his pace is strong enough, personally.
No, I mean, like, I'm not sure what the next goal is, because if he can keep... Oh, there you go, you say that! He's... Oh, again, another one for the pit. Deckers goes flying off there, just puts the power down a bit too aggressively, and as Tom said, well, obviously no pace, and there goes his race.
That's all she wrote for Deckers then. Disappointing for the Ferrari driver. Werner goes down the order. And, well, he'll want to forget that. Meanwhile, now that means that Valerio Gallo inherits the lead from the Dutchman. So, Lopez in second, Beauvoir in third. This is shaping up to be an absolute treat. Lap 12 out of 20 we are on here. Now, here's Martin Grady. He's doing that 3-stop strategy, as we know, because he pitted early doors. That, I imagine, is probably because the Audi is a little bit harder on its tyres, perhaps, do you think, Jimmy?
Maybe. We do know that the Audi likes to eat its rear tyres, or did anyway, in past iterations of the BOP. We'll see how it does now. I mean, he's made 2 stops so far, and the guys in front owe a stop as well. Maybe he's done very well here. We don't know. It'd be great to see Martin up there. He always seems to be languishing kind of midfield somewhere. We want to see a Grady win at some point. That's what we want. I'm not sure we're going to get one today, but you never know. Things might go his way.
I think given his pace, though, a top 5 could potentially be on the cards here for the British driver, because he's looking pretty impressive, actually, given his qualifying performance and given his pace. I've just been keeping an eye on his lap times, actually, over the last couple. 1:30.5 last time, a little bit slower compared to his other competitors, but bear in mind, of course, he's been on those tyres a little bit longer than everybody else. So I'm interested to see how it's going to play out here for Grady, and of course he has already run that hard tyre, so he's going to run this soft, I imagine, and maybe it's a strategy that will work well for him and pay dividends in the closing stages as everybody else sorts themselves out.
Yeah, I mean, I know I like to give Grady a little bit of stick every now and then, but the fact that he's always here in these competitions, always in the top 10, you know, it just goes to show the consistency and the skill that is involved in that. It's very hard to overstate just how good these guys are, and Grady, of course, definitely earns his place here. So he's coming in now for another set of soft tyres. So he's going to go for the 3-stop strategy. We'll see if that pans out. We've had a couple of people trying the 3-stop and taking quite a bit of fuel there as well. So I think that's his fuel for the race now. No more fuel for Grady, it seems. Where's he going to come out?
He's going to run. He's going to try and run to the end of this one. As we said, such a long pit lane exit. It feels pathetic going through there as you see everybody else streaming past you. There is Adam Tapai just in the foreground of your shot. Here is Valerio Gallo back to the race lead then with Coque Lopez. Baptiste Beauvoir very close behind. These guys on the 2-stop strategy, as we know, but running a different strategy compared to the likes of Hizal and Skabedia. Interestingly, the gap between the top 2 effectively in this race, or as it was before the pit stops, is now 1.3 seconds. So bear in mind it was just a couple of hundredths of a second there and thereabouts before they pitted for the first time. That has really cost him quite dear there, Skabedia, falling back on that hard tyre in his second stint rather.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be... I mean, realistically, he's still only 1.4 seconds off Hizal. And these are the guys who we think... Well, that's where the strategy diverges. We don't know which one's going to be the one that pays the win at the end. We'll have to wait and see with that one. Beauvoir, though, starting to look a bit more aggressive towards Coque Lopez. I think he's about ready to pass the Spaniard in front in the BMW, of course. Mercedes, as we say, very, very strong last year in the Manufacturer Series, and not quite had the same level of success this year, but still very quick, coming out towards T1 and still there, all driving together. 2 Williams Esports drivers and a Veloci driver there. Great to see these teams so involved in the Gran Turismo Sport events. We hope to see more drivers from them in the future. As we come down now, the second straight here. Again, this is what you want to be doing in drafting, trying to set up a move it seems that NSX, while it isn't too quick in a straight line, the guys behind aren't any quicker either. They can't do anything about it.
No, it seems to be the case, as you say. I have to say it's brilliant to see some new names in the top 16 superstars, as you were saying there, Jimmy, as well, bringing some new talent to the field, the likes of Galizzi as well as Squatterito. And apologies, by the way, if we are mispronouncing the names. It's not our intention, it's just we're terrible at doing it. We are working on it, and we'll have some kind of course, I'm sure, at some point in the near future. But the likes of Grady, that's pretty simple because that's a British name for us, and he is sending it down the inside of Via through into the right hand, and they go of Ferradura, and he is into 11th place. So that's 3-stop strategy working quite nicely here for Grady, and whilst he's on fresher rubber compared to those around him, he's going to be scything through the field at the moment.
Yeah, Via made a mistake there, which sort of helped Grady out a little bit coming out of T45. Just got a bit sideways, and that allowed Grady just to have the run and get up there. But yeah, definitely enjoying those new tyres. Meanwhile, front of the pack, first, second and third in your picture, and Coco Lopez again under attack from Baptiste Beauvoir. Now, these guys do have to stop one more time at least to be in this race, but again, you see the Mercedes gets close to the BMW, but then can't do anything about it, just sort of drops back mid-straight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out between these guys. Fewer than 5 laps now remaining in this Manufacturer Series race for the top 16 superstars. A little bit wide there, I'd say, for Coco Lopez. Beauvoir's got a great run coming out of the centre S, coming down the Retroposta into the left-hander of turn 4. Is he going to launch an attack up the inside of the BMW? He's late on the brakes. He's running alongside Lopez. He's trying to squeeze him towards the apex. Beauvoir's trying to compromise him, going through the left-hander. They're still running side by side one another. Lopez has got the inside line for the following right-hander, and I think Beauvoir's just going to have to hold off. There's a bit of contact between them, causing Beauvoir to have to counter-steer, and indeed, that position does not change between the two, but rough and ready racing from these guys here.
Yeah, Beauvoir, I think, we're starting to see opportunities that aren't really quite there. I mean, he was almost alongside Coco Lopez. Oh, I'm going to go for that, but the speed difference isn't there. And what they've both just done is slowed themselves down a little bit and now pulled back a little bit from Gallo at this point. But I think that's what happens when you're so close to someone behind them. You get frustrated when you can't get by. You start looking for those little opportunities that maybe weren't on the lap or so. You go, yeah, I'm going to go for that now, and then you do it, and it doesn't quite work out for you. So, anyway, Beauvoir again. You see deep in the toe. We're going to get a lot more view of what this looks like now when you're trying to follow someone down the straight. You've got that toe, speed starts to increase, and then he gets to a certain point and just can't quite get any closer. Will he go for a Alonso? 165 mile an hour, big break into T1. He just about just gathered the confidence there for the move, hammered the brake pedal, and Baptiste Beauvoir finally gets by Coco Lopez. But now the roles are reversed as we go down the front straight here. Will Coco Lopez be able to get that position back using the draft? No, he won't. He's fallen back a little bit. And Beauvoir now can have a go at Gallo, our leader.
Could be the cork in the bottle there for Baptiste Beauvoir. Will he be able to close up on him? Let's keep an eye on the sector times and the lap times, and indeed that gap now sitting at 0.6 of a second. Let's see how much it fluctuates over the next one of this. Mikael is out, Thomas Scabilia 4th and 5th place. Of course, they are on a different strategy to these 3 drivers out in front, who have still got to make at least one more pit stop in this one, whereas Hazal and Scabilia are running to the end on their 2-stopper, but of course they've run the hard tyre already, whereas Gallo, Beauvoir and Lopez are going to run that on the final lap, you would imagine, given the fact that they only have to run that for a minimum of 1 lap. Meanwhile, see Belic in 4th and Romero in 5th place. I should say rather Belic in 6th and Romero in 7th. I haven't spoken much about those guys in the Toyota and the Volkswagen, but Adam Tapai there, down in 8th place. Given he started and qualified so strongly, his race pace is pretty much nowhere at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's another victim of the freight train. If one person passes you, then everyone does. And I think he's just dropped back a little bit in that Ford, not quite having the race pace it has in qualifying. I was just about to say, Tom, but with Mick Hazal, given that the top 3 have to pit, he's only 4.5 seconds off. This is his race right now. He's used all 3 compounds of tyres. Started on medium, had that hard middle sector and that middle stint, and now the soft at the end. He's gained on these guys since he's been on the soft tyre by about 1.8 seconds or so, nearly 2 seconds now since he's been on this set. And these guys in front all over stop, and he doesn't. So
yeah,
I think
is
that's
very impressive.
All done and done.
Yeah, very impressive there from the Turkish driver, Mikael Hazal. We know how confident he is, and he puts in the hours with the strategy, and it's paying off beautifully for him here. Lap 17 out of 20 we are on then. Just having a look a little bit further down the order, you can see Galizzi in the Chevrolet and Ertz in the Alfa Romeo are pretty close to one another on track, just 0.3 of a second separating those guys there, but otherwise relatively stable. I think in the final stages, the final lap, when everybody makes their pit stops, we might see a potential battle for the podium between these guys, between Gallo, Beauvoir and Lopez, but at the moment they're keeping things relatively calm. But Beauvoir has definitely closed that gap down to Gallo. It's now just over 0.4 of a second. They still continue on this softer combat of tyre, but look in the background there, Mikael Hazal, the turquoise and black Subaru, will be in their mirrors very shortly indeed. But look at the run that Baptiste Beauvoir gets on the start-finish straight. Then Gallo goes defensive. Beauvoir's going to have to go for the outside line, but pulls alongside to take the lead away. Hard on the brakes we go. Can he try and do it? Around the outside, the Frenchman in the Mercedes. He's got the inside line for the next corner. Very aggressive indeed there, but Gallo holds on. He runs it wide. That's going to compromise his run through turn 3. Can Beauvoir gather it up and get a run down the Retroposta? Not quite at the moment, but still Beauvoir looking to try and find his way through. Pulls out of the slipstream, not close enough to make a move into T4.
Yeah, good effort there from Beauvoir, but just not quite got the pace of a Gallo to get by going that way around him. And he's still having a go though, going up now towards T6, and they're still pulling alongside. Really, of course, we can see this, maybe they can't, but they should be doing this, because their real threat right now for their position is probably Scabilia. We think that Hazal is probably going to get by quite easily when they pit, but Scabilia behind, maybe even Bellis as well. These are the guys they're going to be kind of thinking about when they're driving around, and keeping that gap to them and squabbling like that is going to slow them both down. Of course, when you're out there, you don't really think of the grand picture, you just think of your own race, and sometimes that can get in the way a little bit, and that maybe is happening a little bit here. Coque Lopez, though, he's unfortunately trying to capitalise on all this, but he's still there in third position in the BMW M6. We'll now be coming on to the penultimate lap, and we reckon the end of the next lap we'll see our guys, our top 3 here, come into the pit lane and fit that hard compounder tyre, and probably a tad more fuel as well.
Yeah, fuel's going to be important. Gallo once again goes defensive as Beauvoir tries to pull alongside. He does again pull alongside. Can he do it? He's ahead into the braking zone. Hard on the brakes we go into turn 1. The Mercedes versus the Honda. Side by side we go through the Centre S. Beauvoir has got the outside line there, bashing door handles and wing mirrors as we come through turn 3. Gallo still holds on in defence, but here comes Coque Lopez down the Retroposta then. So in the slipstream for Beauvoir, challenging for the lead, but here comes Lopez on the outside. We're nearly going 3 wide down the straight. Gallo holds on to the lead. Beauvoir getting very aggressive indeed, as is Lopez ready to join the party. Wow, this is a great scrap. Gallo's gone wide out of the left-hander. Here comes Beauvoir up the inside. Can he hold it late on the brakes? Can Lopez try and invent something as well around the outside? Gallo on the inside still, and Beauvoir on the outside. On the brakes we go into the right-hander. Gallo holds on to the lead. Lopez is going to come through here as well. Beauvoir does just hold on to second place, but that was brilliant driving between those 3.
Yeah, you love to see it. You love to see that. Very clean, for all them all squabbling for the place, and respectfully so at the same time. But look what that's done. Look who that is in the background there. Mick Hazal has pulled right up to this group. Oh, when you're fighting like that, it looks fantastic. You love watching it, but all it does is lose your time. And you're seeing that right now. Look how much closer Mick is. Now these guys are going to all peel into the pit lane and take their fresh set of hard tyres for the end. They have to take it, it's mandatory, and Mick Hazal is going to drive on by and take the lead of this race.
Lovely stuff from Mikael Hazal. Again, a perfectly executed strategy from him. He has got just 1 more lap remaining, separating him from yet another win in the top 16 Superstars. Perfect performance from him so far there. It's not over till it's over though. Let's not count our chickens before they've hatched, or whatever the expression goes. Scabilia though, that is the crucial question for this podium position. Where is he going to emerge? Where are the rest of the field going to emerge? I think Scabilia is just going to hold on. Indeed he is, but look there at Gallo, Beauvoir and Lopez battling for the final spot on the podium then here. So Gallo is looking very close indeed to try and hold on to this one, but Beauvoir, will he have the pace? He's got a few more opportunities remaining. He still pulls alongside. He's looking very aggressive once again. Are we watching the same lap over again compared to what we were last time around? Because this is near enough identical of a battle between these guys. Gallo goes a little bit wide through there. Does that allow an opportunity for Beauvoir? Not quite at the moment, but Lopez there ready and lurking in the background. He's ready to try and pounce if anything goes on between them here. But oh, look at that, just again, really aggressive and just stretching the limits of this circuit and seeing if they can try and invent something. There's only a few more corners, now remaining, coming up the hill in towards Jung Kao, and unless Gallo makes a mistake or he gets a run, does Beauvoir, I don't know if he's going to be able to do anything here, but there can be nothing taken away from this man here. Mikael Hazal, a perfect strategy and the win once again in the Manufacturers Series EMEA region top 16 superstars race. Skabilia comes home in second. It's a drag to the line for third, but Gallo holds on by just a few tenths of a second ahead of Beauvoir and Coque Lopez. Well, a hugely exciting race there, Jimmy, and it's not over as well for the final spots in the top 10.
Now, so drafting up the straight here, looks like it's going to be between the Alpha and Abraham Hagen there. Actually had to slow down in. I think he ran out of fuel a little bit there and lost 13th at the line. But Mikael Hazal showing why he's a champ there. Absolutely dominant performance, great strategy, wins by 5 seconds from Skabilia. Gallo, Beauvoir and Lopez squabbling to the line. That would have been for second if they weren't squabbling so much before they pitted in. But of course, Gallo there taking the last podium slot. And Adam Taipei best of the rest there in the Ford GT.
Well, that is the order, as you can see. Villa, in his first Top 16 Superstars race, holds on to P9 ahead of Belic, then Galizzi, Deckers, Squatterito, Abraham Hagen, Foncesa and Ertz rounding out the 16 drivers in our Top 16 Superstars race. Well, I wonder if that battle for the podium may have changed things in the point standings. Let's take a look, shall we? Find out. So the point standings then, after 10 rounds in the Manufacturers Series for the EMEA region, see Hazal and Beauvoir firmly at the top of the order. But Skabilia moves up into P3 there, Jimmy.
Yeah, great day out for Skabilia, isn't it? Lamborghini up there in third. That's fantastic for them. Great to see him doing so well. Gallo too gaining from that as well. And Coque Lopez, despite a decent performance, actually drops down to 7th position. So just going to show that every race result counts here.
Certainly does. You can see the other drivers who have moved up or down the order. Moosen, Brea and Poundjane making ground. Deckers, Mangano and Mehdi there moving down the order. So that's how it sits then after that Top 16 Superstars race. Exciting stuff. Well, some brilliant action we've seen in the Nations Cup and the Manufacturers Series for the EMEA region of the Top 16 Superstars event. Jimmy Broadbent, just condensing it down very quickly, what highlights do you have from those two races? What stood out for you?
I think the big one for me was the squabble in the Manufacturers Series, both before and after pit stop. It's always, you get a little bit on edge when you see three cars dicing like that, especially in an online setting, of course, as well, because we do have things like netcode to think about. But the way they race so respectfully, so cleanly, but that level of aggression there as well, that is why these guys are the superstars. You love seeing racing like that.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. It's what we all love about Gran Turismo, I think it's fair to say. Who's your driver of the day then, if you had to pick one? You know I love putting you on the spot, and I know you're going to thank me for it as well.
Oh, man. Yeah, there'll be a very aggressive text message after this, I think. But I think I think I'd have to say it's got to be Valerio Gallo, really. I mean, 2 podiums, one a win, of course, in the Nations Cup. Just showed that he's got what it takes to fight at the front, you know, and maybe a little bit more pace to go against the big guys, you know, the Hazals, the Fragas, the Kovskis, but I think he has it. He's been really improving, like a lot of drivers. We've had a lot of time at home to improve recently. I think he's used that wisely.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, some brilliant action, as we said, we've seen in the Nations Cup and the Manufacturers Series. Jimmy Broadbent, thank you very much for joining us once again. Thank you for joining us at home as well for the Top 16 Superstars broadcast. We're back very, very soon on the 21st of June for more action of the Top 16 Superstars for the EMEA region. From myself, Tom Brooks, and from us all here at Gran Turismo. We'll see you next time.